Welcome to a new episode of the Superpowered Fancast. My name is Darren. On this episode, I got to speak with an up and coming comic book writer whose new series debuts today. Osy Ikhile is not a stranger to the entertainment industry. In fact, he's an actor known for his roles in films like Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, In the Heart of the Sea, as well as series like Citadel, All American, and as a Trekkie, my favorite episode of Black Mirror, USS Callister, as Nate Packer, even coming back for the follow-up episode in season 7. Osy is the writer and co-creator of the new series We Who Remain from his independent imprint Shadow Crown Comics. It tells the story of a post-apocalyptic world filled with magic, technology, and intrigue. Now, I am highly recommending the first issue of this new series because Osy teases a bigger world being created in this series, a world that can span and sustain its own universe if given the chance. We talk about that in a lot of different things in this episode. So without further ado, here's my interview with Osy Ikhile. Thank you so much for being on the Superpowered Fancast. I really appreciate you being here. And I really wanted to talk to you because I mean, primarily and especially to me for your acting roles. Like I've seen you in like episodes of Black Mirror, like those are my favorite ones. I'm a Star Trek fanatic, so anything that kind of parodies that
Yeah.
world is great. And I've seen you in
So,
Citadel, but I've also seen you on in movies like In the Heart of the Sea and Mission Impossible. So the question I always love to ask actors and people in the creative fields is kind of why comics? Like what? Like I guess, and we can kind of start. Like, what was your comic book journey? Like, were there any specific comics you read as a kid, or Did you recently get into them? Like, why comic books as a medium for you?
okay, that's a really good question. So for me, I'm 37. So when I started getting into comic books, it was in the 90s. It really started from like Saturday morning cartoons. I was watching the 90s Spider-Man, the 90s X-Men, and both of those really resonated with me, especially the X-Men. As a black man, the juxtaposition of like mutants being hated by society, I felt like I could really relate to that. So the X-Men have always been my absolute favorites. So when those cartoons were done, I didn't want to have to wait a week to carry on the story. So I went into comics so I could carry on just learning about these characters that I've fallen in love with. And then since then, it's just always been kind of a hobby of mine. I'd rather read a comic book than a novel just because I'm such a visual person as well. Like I love art. I love like dope artwork. So the storytelling with the artwork combined is just comics were a no-brainer for me. Where We Who Remain comes in now is that about a year ago I was writing a lot. I was in between seasons of this TV show I was doing called All American. And I just wanted to, when I'm not working, I love just always having some kind of creative outlet. So I was writing a lot of like short films and TV show pilot ideas. And I did an exercise where I used sidebar. I started drawing in 2020. I am nowhere near comic book level artist drawing capabilities. So shout out to Mark Marvida, who actually created the visuals for this comic book. So some of those characters that I created during my drawing exploits, um, I did an exercise where I basically wanted to create a story around these characters. And that's kind of how We Who Remain came into be. Um, it was originally supposed to be like a TV show. And after doing this exercise, I kind of realized that I didn't want this to just be something that just gets left and nobody ever sees it and I don't really do anything with it. So I thought about different mediums in the way I could tell the story. I thought about an audio book, but for me, I needed the visual because the
Mhm.
story is so vast and it's so much sci-fi and fantasy involved that I needed to see it. So there was a book sitting in front of me when I was thinking about this, and it was House of X, and that kind of just like lit a light bulb in my head. I'm like, why don't I just actually hire an artist and make this thing reality? So that's when I got into contact with Mark Marvida, and we just got the ball rolling. We were doing character designs and figuring out the world and the language, the colors and stuff, and now we are launching in 2 days.
I mean, and that's awesome. And it's one of the things I always love, especially about comics as a medium, is the collaborative effort
Mm.
that you have to go through it. And this being kind of your first, like, what were there any kind of hiccups? Were there things that you were unsure about that Mark kind of had to pull out of you, or did you kind of have the vision already in your mind and just wanted to see if he like connected with it the same way you did? Like, what was the
There was
collaboration, I guess?
I'm grateful that the collaboration was it was we were communicating a lot because, as you said, this is my first book. My only writing experience is from like TV show or film scripts. Like that's how I learned about scripts, and the format is slightly different from when you're doing comic books. So in the first book, there was a lot more back and forth because I didn't necessarily explain as well as I could have um, exactly what I wanted to see on the panels. I was still sort of writing like a TV writer instead of a comic book writer, which is
Right.
a lot more specific for the artist, not necessarily for the audience or the actors, basically. So that was a bit of a learning curve, and I'm grateful to Mark for hanging in there with me during the sketch phase because there was a lot of notes because I didn't properly explain what I wanted to see on a page. But what we had and what we created by the end of issue one was exactly what I wanted. He did exactly what I wanted and then some, which just elevated it even more. And then by the time we got to issue two and issue three, the language and the back and forth was just a lot smoother. So it was a lot more efficient. So that issue one was a big learning curve, but I'm very happy where we landed on it for sure.
Yeah. And along those same lines, um is this a story that you've mapped out from start to finish, or is this something that you're just kind of discovering as you write? Like
No,
as
I've mapped it out. Like this
Nice.
goes like this first arc is 8 books or 8 issues. So they are all mapped out. I'm currently writing issue five, and Mark is finishing up the drawings and the lettering on issue three. But it goes 8 issues, and then I've already thought about spin-offs and other characters, and like the world that's being created in my head is growing faster than I can pen it down basically. But I have a lot of ideas for this arc, for this whole universe of Shadow Crown.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I noticed, especially after reading the first issue, is that there is a lot of lore and a lot of world building that's being introduced, but there's also a lot of things that are being kind of teased. I love the post-apocalyptic kind of
Mm.
vibe to it. I love the mixture of sci-fi and fantasy on it. Was that something that you wanted to make sure was a part of this world when you were telling the story? Was it something that you saw, or were there elements and were there things that kind of inspired those elements for you when you started writing it?
100%. You hit the nail on the head. For me, when I was writing this, apart from the characters that I had already kind of like sketched out and drawn, I was I was looking for a story that had all of my favorite things in it because I can't remember which artist said it, but they said, "Don't make things for fans, make it for yourself, and it'll be the most authentic it can be." And writing this was exactly how I approached the whole book. I love sci-fi, I love horror, I love fantasy. I love what Powers of X and House of X did to reinvent the X-Men. I love that world building and the imagination that comes from just throwing away all of the rules just excited me. So I just wanted to put all of my favorite things into this book. And I wanted the central characters to just be these like misfits that never felt like they kind of fit in. Because it's just something that I relate to and I resonate with. And me approaching it like that made me feel like if there's anybody else out there that has a similar kind of feeling in life, then they would resonate with it too. So just writing it for like-minded people. But yeah, that's why there's a lot of fantasy and post-apocalyptic horror and sci-fi all just melded into one because I love that shit.
Yeah, and I definitely got that, especially I mean, you've got like a the first issue's main character is a half vampire, half human, and then she's kind of not to spoil anything, but then you bring in like cyberpunk elements and
Yeah.
magic and all those things. Like, is it do you find it daunting, or is it liberating to just kind of bring all of those things out? And are there more things that you want, more elements and things that you want to include in it? And were there any things that you thought could have got where it might be a little too far that you kind of pulled back on?
Yeah, there's stuff that I pulled back on because when I was writing it, I would look back and be like, nah, that's cheesy, man. I ain't doing that. That's too cheesy. Or that's a little too Power Rangers. I love Power Rangers, but this isn't that. So let me pull back on that. There was definitely times when I was playing with the idea of how much uh 18 plus material would be in there, like language wise and the gore and stuff. And I just kind of remembered that I'm writing it for me
Right.
and the people who vibe with me. Um, as opposed to daunting, no, I just thought, let me just go crazy. Let me just go absolutely ham with all the things that I love and just see what happens. You know, as I was writing it, things would be like, nah, you're doing the most. And then things would be like, oh, you're cooking now. So yeah, just stay on this line of thought, you know, and let's go down this path. Let's see what happens here and stuff. And there are things that are going to be introduced more and more later on, especially after issue 3. I think issue 4 is when you really, really get to see the world. The first 3 issues are really about the main characters. I really, as an actor, for me, the best stories are character driven. So I really wanted to just make sure everybody knows who these guys are. You know, Sable is the first person in issue 1, but then you quickly get introduced to everybody else in issue 2 and 3. And I thought it was really important to just set up their dynamic and their wants and needs in those first 3 issues. And then you see the craziness of the core lands and the hollow wilds.
I'm glad you brought that up because this one of the things like I'm I just turned 50. I've been reading comics since I was like 8 years old.
Mm.
And I can absolutely tell when a story is going to be interesting to me. I can usually tell within the first 2 issues. And I love the fact that your focus is on the characters first, is introducing the characters. Because you can have the biggest, most fantastical world that you can imagine. But if you don't care about the characters within it, then you're
Mm.
just looking at pretty pictures. And
Yeah.
I'm glad. And that's one of the things that I definitely enjoyed about the first issue, We Who Remain, is that it starts. You have the wonderful backgrounds and the wonderful things that you can see. Like I see the old cars kind of mixed in with almost melted into the foliage, but it's the
Yeah.
character in the forefront that and her story that's kind of bringing that's
Mm.
grabbing my attention and keeping it. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that character focus is where you're
That's
going.
dope.
But
It was
and
very
at this
important to us. It was very important to us, like me and Mark, visually to do it subtly, you
Mhm.
know, because that first when you do meet Sable, that is the Hollow Wilds. That's the post-apocalyptic side of this world. So I didn't want it to be so obvious and in your face like you normally see the post-apocalyptic stuff. So I'm glad that you picked that up because it was supposed to be like little subtle hints here and there, and then in different parts you'd get different versions of that.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of sci-fi will just kind of like throw you into this. I there's so many like sci-fi stories, and again, decades of reading this stuff. Like I've seen so
Yeah.
many stories. It's like as soon as I see my first desert, I'm like, okay, I get it. But I like that this is kind of
Yeah.
like lived in and things like that. But then
Yeah.
along those lines, is are there stories that you kind of want to tell outside of this group? And do you think that this story kind of can allow for that without taking away from the core story that we're reading? Like, are you thinking? I
Yeah.
guess are you thinking ahead and around the world that you're creating?
Yes, yes, 1000%. Um, so Shadow Crown Comics is the name of is the umbrella of everything. It's eventually going to be something like the Shadow Crown universe or whatever. But that entity, the name Shadow Crown, is an entity in the book that will be revealed at some point. I don't want to spoil anything, but once this main story is done, then there's a lot of smaller stories within the same world that I want to be telling, some horror stories, some detective stories, some like the core lands is the cyberpunk aspect of the world. And there's authoritarian company called Echo Corps that kind of rule over there with an iron thumb. And there's going to be stories within there of like espionage and corruption, and but all set within this world. So they don't necessarily have to know each other, but with the introduction of We Who Remain, everybody will know what the world already is, if that makes sense. So all the
Yeah,
stories I'm going to be telling are going to be from other characters within Core Lands or other characters within the Hollow Wilds. Um, yeah, that's all I can say for now.
yeah. Because I don't want to spoil it
Yeah,
because it is
yeah,
very interesting. But I like the fact that you're thinking of the world as a world, and
yeah.
because I like that. I like the progression of the story, but I also like to think that the world has teeth, like it has something that you can hold on to. And
Oh, for
then
sure.
yeah, and along those same lines, just kind of going back into the comic book fandom of it.
Mm,
And this is something I have you had other like feed have you had other feedback from like other comic book writers? Like have you shown your work to
I
have you
have.
begun making relationships in that space, and kind of what was the feedback that you got?
I have. There is one person in particular. I don't want to say anything because he might actually do a blurb for the book. So I don't want to I don't want to ruin that. But he did give me some advice on the story and the book. He said that he liked it, the way that it started, the cliffhanger. He said that he enjoyed that. Gave
Mm-hmm.
advice on how to roll it out, because again, I'm new to all this, so it was really helpful just speaking. And I respect the work that he's done on certain books in the industry. But yeah, he was a good kind of like barometer for am I even going in the right direction, you know? So that was encouraging. Um, yeah, so I'm looking forward to people reading this actually. Yeah.
And along those same lines, just where did like how did the pitch to a publisher go? Like as far as saying, hey, you know what, I'm a first time comic writer, and I want you to publish my story.
Yeah.
Like how did that process
So
go for you?
I haven't pitched to anybody. I This is all out of
So
pocket. I'm
self-published. Okay.
self-published, all out of pocket. I'm doing it on my own. I just didn't want to wait for anyone. I wanted to just try, just make it myself and see what happens. It's either going to be terribly unsuccessful and a financial drain, or it's going to be the greatest thing I've ever created. Either way, I just thought, let me just make it. Let me just see what happens. Let me dare to be brave.
Yeah, and that's interesting to me, and that's something that actually just hearing that makes the story sound more interesting, both your story and the story from the book, because again, you're not waiting for somebody to tell you to do it. You're just kind of doing
No,
it, and that's
yeah,
the I think that's always the best world building, especially on anything collaborative. Like I love storytelling. Like I storytell. I play TTRPGs with my friends and things like that. So like the entire thing is like, especially like Dungeons and Dragons, it's all storytelling.
mm, yeah,
So I and one of the funny things is was when I was reading it, I was like, God, this would make such a great tabletop game. Like just like creating like creating a character in this world, and that's a testament to how interesting and layered this world is. But even kind of going back into you being a fan of comics themselves, and this is something I ask every writer, and you are a comic book writer, so I'm going to ask you, um, based on like your foray into comics and your fandom of comics themselves, is there a comic book character that you think you would have a good take on if you were given the opportunity to write? Now, you don't have to tell me what the take is, but who is the character and kind of why do you think that character would be uh would resonate? Why does that character resonate with
That's a really good question. Um, huh. I got to. Have I? Yeah. Okay. One of the first ones is Spike from X-Men Evolution because he was introduced in the
you? Yeah,
cartoon, but he wasn't in
he
the
wasn't in the
comics.
comic. Yeah,
And then Marvel just kind of forgot about him. But he was so dope. Like I was the skateboarding black kid in my area. So I was like,
mhm,
oh shit, that's really me. Like
yeah,
I really resonate. He was so cool. But then they just didn't do anything with him. And I just think if we brought him back into like present day, I could do some pretty cool stuff with him. It'd be like on a Spider Punk kind of level of
yeah,
like anarchist, you know. So that's definitely one. And I think Cyborg has also kind of just been mad, if that makes any sense. He's just kind of been he's more of a story plot point. We haven't really seen a lot about like him as a character in a long time,
yeah.
I feel.
No,
So and yeah. Apart from that, I guess no other characters really like jump out at me.
well, one
Maybe
of the
like an
things,
X Force run would be cool, but yeah.
yeah, one of the things that I've talked about, like I talked to a lot of like both friends in the industry and outside of it, just kind of in those circles. Like I'll talk to like I talked to like Cullen Bunn, or I've talked to like Joseph Village and
Oh damn.
Scott Snyder, people like that. And one of the things that I know that's been a big thing in especially in black comic book circles now, especially on social media, is that it's been like literally people counting down the days and years in which there's been like a solo black
Mm,
character
uh,
outside of Black Panther that has
yeah, yeah.
had their own
And
comic.
it's rare,
Yeah,
man. Apart
yeah,
from Black Panther and Miles Morales, like there hasn't really been that many.
right.
Like they're always like side characters or whatever. Like
Yeah,
we introduced them, we ticked the box, like let's go back to our white characters. Like
right.
that's
And
how
that's the
it's
thing
always
is that
kind of felt.
yeah, they'll get a limited run. They'll get maybe 8, 12 issues, and then that should
Yeah.
be it. It's like I loved the there's a Storm series that came out a couple of years ago. That was really
Mm,
good. That was the Storm solo series, and it's gone now. And then
mm,
but it's one of those, and they're they what they've done with the Dakota incident, trying to bring back Milestone
mm.
comics. That's been something
I,
that
I read that and I enjoyed them trying to like bring it back into the present. I pray that like this goes for a long time. I don't want it
yeah,
to be like a six issue done. We'll never see it again for another 5 years or something, you know? Like I
yeah.
want it to just be back. Like
Yeah.
that'd
I
be
mean, if you
dope.
can, that's the thing. If they're going to bring back, if DC is going to bring back the Vertigo imprint, they could absolutely bring back the milestone.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I would love to see a Spike series, because like he was kind of after he was after my time growing up, but
Mm,
like I was I watched the series, and I loved his inclusion, and I always thought that he
mm.
was a character that could transition into comics and
Into
that.
like Harley Quinn did, you know?
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
was
Yeah,
it
Harley Quinn
was
started
teed
on.
up
Yeah,
like it was
exactly.
teed up for him like being Storm's nephew, I think it was, or
Right.
something like
Yeah.
that. Like they were related in some kind of way, but it was so yeah, they missed the trick there, man. You bring back Spike. We need to start like a
Yeah.
hashtag or something.
Well, that's the thing is, I mean, you get this, you have your book out there. You can, I would absolutely recommend you pitch to Marvel and say, "Hey, I've got
Yo,
a Spike series I'd love to
yeah,
do."
that'd be dope. That's a good call, actually. I might do
Yeah,
that.
but We Who Remain is coming out this Wednesday, and
Yes, yes, it is.
and I think if anything, just kind of just a from you like a short pitch, like why should a new reader, when they're walking into their LCS and they see We Who Remain on the shelf, why do you think they should pick up that first issue?
I think they should pick it up if they support black owned stories, if they like sci-fi, if they like fantasy, if they like horror, if they like stories about misfits and people who generally just don't feel like they have anybody in the world, if they like stories about found families, if they like epic mind-bending sagas that are out of this world, then yeah, they should definitely pick it up because it's dope. And there's a lot of dope like female characters and male character. Like there's just something for everyone. And if you like action, then it's definitely for you too.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm definitely recommending it. It's going on my list of my highlights of the week because it's again it touches on all of those things that I've loved in like decades of reading comics. Like you got your
Mm,
sci-fi and your post-apocalyptic setting and mixture of sci-fi and fantasy and magic and horror and all those things. Like it's a great mashup of those things without while feeling natural in its setting.
mm, which was
I
really important to me as well. Yeah,
yeah, it's like nothing feels like one part of the genre is overtaking the other. So I really enjoy the balance of it. But also who like if you wanted people, and I always emphasize if because a lot of people don't. If you wanted people to follow you on social media, where can they find
So Shadow Crown Comics at Shadow Crown Comics on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook. Be great if you could follow there. I'm also doing little lore drops on the socials. So apart from announcements and stuff, I'll be posting short scenes, like one panel scenes that I drew myself from not side characters, but like background characters in the world of We Who Remain. So I can slowly continue to build it out as the main story is going on. So you can only see that on Shadow Crown Comics. And then my personal Instagram is Osy Ikhile. So follow those two for more about what we got cooking.
you? All right. And I'm going to have links to all of those in the episode description. It's going to be on the
Cool.
YouTube channel. It's going to be on the audio podcast as well. But
Dope.
Osy Ikhile, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me about We Who Remain. I really enjoyed the first issue. I'm definitely looking forward to the second because I really enjoyed that
Dope.
cliffhanger.
Thank
And
you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you for having me here as well. This has been a cool talk.
no, that's awesome. And I would love to have you back to talk more when
Yeah,
it's out there. And again, it's a great story. There's a lot of great things happening in it, and above everything else, there is a great kind of mystery and world that's being created in this, which as a reader, I appreciate. So
dope.
I'm gonna wish you all the luck on this.
Thank you, man.
I want to see not only this story succeed, but I want to see more of this world as you go.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. I want to share it with the world too, man. So you'll be the first to know as soon as we're ready to go. Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
So once again, I want to thank Osei Ikhile for being on the podcast this week. We Who Remain is currently available. You can find it on Global Comics, but you can also go to shadowcrowncomics.com and learn more about not only the world of We Who Remain, but about the Shadow Crown Comics itself. I definitely highly recommend it. There's going to be links to where you can not only find the comic, but you can learn more about and follow Osei and his company in the description down below. But for Superpower Fancast, this is Darren Signing off.